I think this Alabama team heading into 2023 is in an extremely weird position because a lot of people, they're doubting them. The last year was the first year I've ever seen Alabama, the defense and offense, get pushed around and bullied. It's quiet. Too quiet. Seriously though, in the past couple of weeks, there hasn't been too much going on in the college football landscape, which is rare. I don't know another way to say it. There's just not a lot going on, and I do somewhat get it because we are in the driest time for sports. It's the middle of summer, and we're getting into the, well, not even at the beginning part of July, we're heading towards the middle part. I say give it a couple of days and some crazy headlines or stories gonna come out in the college football world, but for now, I want to talk about, at least in tonight's video, Alabama. I've been thinking about making this video for a while. I've had it in the back of my pocket, and now I think it's the perfect time. With this season less than 2 months away, ladies and gentlemen, I know I get excited just thinking about it, but lock in, Matt. The season is less than 2 months away. It's time to start talking about these teams and their outlook on the season. In tonight's video, we're going to do just that, and we're going to talk about one of, if not the most intriguing team heading into 2023, and that's Alabama. How can Alabama not be the most intriguing team? Because there's so many mixed opinions, so many mixed feelings, thoughts. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen in this upcoming season. It's also the first time since Nick Saban's been in Alabama, probably since 2009, that people have some, or not a lot of people, but some people have Alabama outside the top 5. Which, by the way, I think is ludicrous, but my point is, we've never seen people say, oh yeah, Alabama's not a top 5 team heading into the season. But now this year, some people are saying that. They're putting them around 6, 7, or 8. And the main reason for that is because not only did their coordinators leave, but nobody knows what's going to happen in the quarterback position. Because let's just come to terms with reality and get the elephant out of the room. If you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win in 2023. Not in this modern day and age. That's not going to happen, and I think most of us know that. The premise of this video, it's simple. You understand it. This is the one and only topic we're going to talk about. All right, Matt, blah, blah. Shut the crap up. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, first things first, and to start things out, as an Alabama fan myself, I want to give you my perspective, and then we'll talk about some other things. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you've been a part of our community, by the way, shout out to everybody a part of our community, you would know I'm probably the most reasonable Alabama fan out there. And I have to say this time after time after time. Yes, I'm a Bama fan, but before that, I'm a college football fan first. So my perspective and view on Alabama is very different from your other fans out here. But let's talk about 2021 first, the year where Alabama lost to Georgia in the championship. Of course, all Alabama fans feel this way. If we don't win a championship, it's a disappointment of a season. But from my view and my perspective of that 2021 season with Bryce Young being his first year as a starting quarterback, we overachieved. Everybody that keeps up with football knew that Alabama team was not that good, and they got lucky just to make the championship game. I was head over heels we just got there. I didn't expect to win, didn't pick them to win. It was just a good year to make it. Fast forward in time, though, to the most recent season, which the one that just happened in 2022, yes, that was a disappointment because that's when Alabama was supposed to turn it up. 2022, Alabama had dang near everybody coming back, had a lot of veterans on the team, and they wet the bed. Nobody criticized the Alabama team more than myself last year. They were pitiful and they were embarrassing at times. It was bad, and I'll leave it at that. Sometimes they showed flashes of greatness, but other times it looked like they never played football a day in their life. And I'm more so love talking about the defense. I don't even want to get into that because it pisses me off. The defense was just, it was rough. That's all I'm going to say because I don't want to get too amped up. I don't want to scream. Here's my word I used for Alabama's defense last year. I'm going to say this and we're going to move along here. Embarrassing. I'll leave it at that. And what makes last year hurt even worse for Alabama is we had 2 of the best players, arguably the best player on offense and the best player on defense on one team, and we couldn't not just even win a title, we couldn't even make it to the playoff. As a matter of fact, we couldn't just not make it to the playoff, we couldn't even make it to the SEC championship. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, I'm referring to Bryce Young and Will Anderson. That's unfortunate for them. Bryce Young is arguably probably the best quarterback that has ever put on the Alabama uniform, and he has nothing to show for it, at least as a starter. He did win a title as a backup for Mac Jones, but he didn't start, so can you really count that? I don't know. So all in all, for 2021, I was happy with the way the Alabama team played. We overachieved. But however, in 2022, we underachieved, and it was disappointing. And now fast forward in time into 2023, here we are. We lost both of our coordinators, offense and defensive coordinator, which, by the way, I think is great because we get a new fresh start and a fresh look. Bill O'Brien, I thought he was decent. I thought he was good at times for Alabama, but it just didn't seem like a great fit. I didn't think he was the main problem. Everybody gave Bill O'Brien a lot of slack. My biggest thing I ranted about all season long to my Bama fans is no, Bill O'Brien is not the problem. We're scoring 50 points a game. The problem is Pete Golden, the defensive coordinator. That's a different conversation for a different day. The point is, they're gone. And not only did we lose both of our coordinators, the biggest thing out of them all is we lost our Heisman winning quarterback, Bryce Young. And as to where it stands for top 5 or top 10 teams, wherever you have Alabama, nobody has a bigger question mark at the quarterback position than Alabama. Currently, as to where it stands today, it is a 3-man race, and there's no separation whatsoever. It's between Tyler Buchner, Ty Simpson, and Jalen Milroe. And I was going to wait to speak on this, but let's just address it now, the quarterback situation. This is going to be a hot take, but I'll explain my reasoning for this. I don't think it matters who wins the job. It doesn't matter. And the reason it doesn't matter is because you can put a penguin back there for Alabama, and they're still going to go 10-2. They're that talented. The only difference a quarterback makes for Alabama or for Georgia is whether you're going to win 10 games or whether you're going to compete for a championship. It's pretty self-explanatory. Look at Georgia. If you would have swapped quarterbacks in 2017 and said Georgia had Tua Tagovailoa and Alabama had Jake Fromm, who would have won the game? Georgia. When you have the talent that Georgia and Alabama has, the only thing that's going to separate these teams is coaching, which they both have 2 of the best coaches in the country, and then it comes down to this, quarterback play. Now, with that being said, let me explain why I don't think the quarterback situation or the battle, it matters whatsoever. Because whoever starts, let's say Jalen Milroe, he starts and he does bad. Well, if he does bad, you got 2 other reliable backups you can put in there. Just because you start Jalen Milroe on game 1 or game 2, it doesn't mean he's got to be your official starter the entire rest of the season. Remember 2015 when Alabama started Blake Barnett and eventually switched over to Jacob Coker? Yeah, they won a title that year. So the whole starter thing doesn't really matter all too much. And to go along with that, here's another reason why I don't think it matters. Because even with Alabama having the best quarterback in the country last year, we still lost to LSU and Tennessee because of the defense. Bryce Young will never get credit for this, but that performance against Tennessee was unreal, and he played so good, even Tennessee fans were raving about it. The only reason nobody talks about how good Bryce Young played against LSU and Tennessee is because Alabama lost those games. But the plays he made against Tennessee and LSU, it was mind-boggling. It was Houdini, to say the least. And that's what I called Bryce Young in the 4th quarter last year. He was Houdini. And heck, if Bryce Young didn't pull off some Houdini magic against Texas, Alabama would have lost to them as well. Come on now, think about it. Bryce Young put up 50 against Tennessee, and we lost. Bryce Young played amazing against LSU, and we lost. So it doesn't matter if we have the best quarterback of all time back there. We need our defense to step up this year in 2023. That's the biggest misconception about all this. And look, I get it. I love talking about the quarterback situation just as much as anybody else. It's always one of the most intriguing topics. But at the end of the day, we had the best quarterback in the country last year, and we couldn't even make the SEC championship. I'm going to say this one last time. What you need to pay attention to is not the quarterback situation, it is the defense. Can we get stops? Can we at least be feared by some teams again? Because last year, it didn't seem like nobody feared us. Watching that Bama defense last year was a weird feeling in my stomach. It was a different vibe. Because from 2008 all the way up into 2021, people feared Alabama so much they lost games before they even kicked off. For example, that championship game where Alabama played Notre Dame lost that game before they even stepped onto the field just because they were so scared of Alabama's defense. But now it seems like the tide's starting to turn. I didn't mean for that to be ironic, but let's just go with it. But seriously, the tide is starting to turn because a lot of teams, they're seeing these other teams have success against Bama, and they're going, hey, they ain't all big and bad. You know, we don't need to fear them anymore. And that's a problem because when people don't fear you and they have hope, they start to get confident. And when they get confident, they can win. They can beat you. Just pay attention to the defense. That would be my advice to you. Now, as far as it goes for your cornerbacks, safeties, defensive line, offensive line, wide receivers, running backs, come on, man. It's Alabama. They got 4- and 5-star recruits at every single position. They got one of the best, no, not one of, my bad, the best shutdown corner in college football in Kool-Aid McKinstry. Alabama at every single position, they're fine. They got the best of the best talent. No need for me to sit up here and break down every single position group. I will say this, though. The wide receiver room, it's not a strength, but it's definitely not a weakness. The wide receiver room is going to be fine, but the one thing I would like to see, and I wish we could get a player back like this, is we need somebody that can take the top off of the defense. We haven't had that in over 2 years. We didn't have it last year. We need a guy like Jameson Williams, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle that can take the top off. We need a speed demon, and it doesn't look like we're going to have that this year either. We got a bunch of good wide receivers, but nobody like a Jameson Williams or Jalen Waddle. If there is one player in the wide receiver room to keep your eyes on, I would say Malik Benson. He's a JUCO transfer. He's looking good, and I like all the things I'm hearing about him. I saved the best for last, though, and let me know your answer to this in the comment section because it's a question to you guys as well. What are the expectations for this Alabama team? Do you think they've lowered a little bit just because they don't know who's going to be the quarterback and there's some question marks and Nick Saban's getting older and the dynasty is quote-unquote falling off? Or do you think it's the same expectations as it's been the past 10 years? For me, I can't speak for you, but for me, my expectations for this Alabama team is the same as it's been the past 15 years. I don't want to sit up here and say championship or bust because that's a given. We know that. What I'm talking about is I want to see this team play with a fire lit under them. I can't tell you how tired I was of watching guys get pushed around. The last year was the first year I've ever seen Alabama, the defense and offense, get pushed around and bullied. The bully, which was Alabama the past 15 years last year, they got bullied. I don't even want to say, oh, it's championship or bust. No, I expect Alabama football players to play with passion, to play with pride. That's what I want to see, because if you do that, the wins will start to come. But, and I have a big but, I will say this though. I think this Alabama team heading into 2023 is in an extremely weird position because a lot of people, they're doubting them. A lot of people think this dynasty, it's coming to an end and it's on its last leg, which is understandable, but I think a lot of people are going to be in for a rude awakening. I see this Alabama team heading into 2023 going back to their old ways like 2009, 10, 11, and 12. I don't think they're going to pass as much as they did last year and the year before. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. I think they're going to ground and pound. I think they're going to shorten the games, and I think their defense will be improved. I think Nick Saban is going to try to transition and go back into what made Alabama the beast that they are. And I think Nick Saban likes the position he's in and the team's in, because every single time, it happens every 5 or 6 years, people start to doubt this team. Nick Saban, he proves everybody wrong. But most importantly, this Alabama team and all these players, there's a sense of urgency around the program. There's hunger that wasn't there in 2021 or 2022. In 2021 and in 2022, I didn't feel like Alabama was in attack mode. I felt like other teams were attacking Alabama. Other teams were jumping out on top. Other teams were hyped up to play Bama. But this year in 2023, I think the roles are going to be reversed and Alabama's going to go back to attacking. All in all, and I can't dumb it down anymore in this, I feel a sense of urgency around the program. The fans feel it, the players feel it, and the coaches feel it as well. The last 2 years, it felt like Alabama just cruised through the season and expected teams to bow down to them and hand them a W. But this year, I think Alabama, they're going to start taking the W's. They're going to dictate how the game flows. I've talked to a lot of Alabama fans and a lot of my Alabama sources in the past couple of months and past couple of weeks, and all of them, every single one, have told me they're worried about something. And they all ask me the same question. Well, Matt, are you not worried? I mean, how do you feel? And I tell them the same thing. No, I'm not worried. I wish I could sit up here and tell you guys I'm worried, but I'm not. As long as Nick Saban is the head coach of Alabama, I can't be worried, but that's just me. I'm not worried whatsoever. I think we're going to be just fine. Let me know your thoughts down below, but